All right, let's do it live on a Football Friday edition of Cleveland Browns Daily, brought to you by Snapple, the official tea and juice drink of the Cleveland Browns. I am merely Beau. He is the great Z. Normally a Football Friday, fun and frivolity. Today we start with the news of the NFL, and it concerns our own Myles Garrett, Z, as it was given out this morning. The news was put out there that Myles Garrett will go on the reserve COVID-19 list. The statement from your Cleveland Browns, quote, this morning, the Cleveland Browns informed that a player has tested positive for COVID-19. Contact tracing has been conducted, and the individual has self-isolated. He has not been in the facility all week, and 0 high-risk contacts have been identified. Our facility remains open. Practice time today, which is going on right now, remains as scheduled as part of the NFL-NFLPA intensive protocols. All meetings this morning will take place remotely. So this is the one that we had talked about a lot in terms of, look, if someone was going to get it, this is the one where it was going to hurt the worst in terms of Myles being our MVP and our most. There's just no replacement for Myles Garrett.
No, there isn't, and you're going against a team that's allowed the most sacks in the NFL, so hopefully maybe you don't feel it as much because their line has struggled outside of Lane Johnson this season, but this is a massive one, and you think about it, look, I think he's in the MVP of the league discussion, and unfortunately, there's a chance for that to be proven true this weekend. But what I will say is, Myles, 9.5 sacks this season. The rest of the Browns' defensive line combined has 8 sacks this season. 2 for Claiborne, 2 for Vernon, 3.5 for Sheldon, and 0.5 for Larry Ogunjobi. So obviously, Myles Garrett is important to what we do. Critically important. This is a different Browns team. This is a different Browns organization. We have seen this year, more than any year that I've been with the Browns, people stepping up when they need to step up and step in. Nobody would have thought Dearness Johnson would have had the game-winning play against the Indianapolis Colts. He did. Nobody would have thought, that Chris Hubbard would have played right guard as well as he did this season. We were without Austin Hooper for 2 games. We've been without Odell Beckham Jr. for basically 3 games. And yet the Browns have found a way time and time again. This is the one we did not want to have to see the next man up at any point. Yeah. We know what happened last year, but this is a different Browns team. And I think that Kevin Stefanski, the position coaches, obviously Andrew Berry, in crafting this roster, they know they invested in depth. They invested in quality veteran depth. And so I would expect you're going to see Adrian Claiborne start alongside Olivier Vernon. Clearly, you're going to get Porter Gustin working in as well. And hopefully for Porter Gustin, this is where he can have his breakthrough game. Claiborne does 2 sacks. They both came in the first 2 games of the year. This would be a great time for Claiborne to dial it up. And I think this week the guy you'll move around is Olivier Vernon, because you do not want Olivier Vernon going exclusively against Lane Johnson. There's really no reason for that. So I think you're going to see these guys move around quite a bit. Now, Claiborne typically plays on the right side of the line because of his condition with his shoulder. So he is not a guy that typically will go against the right tackle. But I could see scenarios where they kick Claiborne inside against the left guard, they put Vernon against the left tackle, and then Porter Gustin will be working against Lane Johnson and as the right tackle. It's a big loss. There's no way to overstate the importance when you look at this team, especially the Eagles. And in the winning mix, Whitman, he has wept. It was a lot about getting this team, the Eagles, into those 3rd and longs. Why? It allows Myles to do what he does best in obvious passing situations. But, they've converted over the last 4 games 11% of their 3rd and 5 or longers. Worst rate in the NFL. Wentz, 12 interceptions on the season, most in the league. 5 games with 2 or more interceptions, 35 sacks. So if there was a line you're facing, it just stinks because you feel like this was a game where Myles would have 2 sacks. He's had a sack in all 6 of the Browns' wins. Can the Browns win a game without Myles Garrett? That is the task. Look, everything has been thrown at this team this year. The kitchen sink has been thrown at the Browns.
It really has.
And they have found a way to overcome. They will have to overcome again. I still think the path to victory is clear. This is a big one, though, and this is why, Adrian Claiborne, this is why you were brought here. For a moment like this. Olivier Vernon, this is why you're making $11 million this year. For a game and a moment like this. Those 2 vets need to step up on Sunday.
Yeah, they do, and it's incredible what Myles has done. It's amazing what he has masked and helped to mask on some of the defensive deficiencies that we've had. If you think about the amount of game-changing plays he has made this season, it's why he's a candidate for Defensive Player of the Year. I agree with you. It's why he should be in the MVP discussion. Obviously, tough for a defensive player to be in that mix, but if anyone would, it would be him. And so now you go without. A couple of things that I want to note on this, and I think this is really critical. We talked to Kevin Stefanski this week about this on the Coaches Show, and it just the idea of this organization to be so forward-thinking and so quick on, you don't feel right, get out of here. And that's what limited it. We really are a model franchise in that sense in trying to play during this pandemic, in the sense of Miles was identified early in the week that he was not feeling well, and he was sent home. And so the contact tracing did not run amok. You do not have our entire defense down. You don't have an entire position group down. Myles Garrett was home. He's been home all week. He hasn't been at the facility all week. And so this is an issue just for Myles. It's not an issue for the entire defense or the entire team. And there's really no threat of losing the game now, where you don't know if that would have happened. But that's the way that this organization has handled this thing from the beginning. Ultra aggressive. You see it in the facility, and you see it with the way that we're handling this. And so while this is a brutal loss, obviously losing someone of Myles' talent, it could have been a lot worse, and it wasn't.
Right, and that's the benefit, as you mentioned, of being in those intensive protocols, and that's why the league proactively has done it. These tests are going to come back positive for every team, and so you have successfully avoided, as you pointed out, and Kevin Stefanski said that's our goal, is to avoid close contacts. You've done that. It's still it's absolutely a devastating. If you said to me, Nathan, rank the players on this team 1 to 53.
We did this, remember?
Of course. He's
off air. We did this. Like, it wasn't even a conversation.
No.
The three of us did.
As I like to say, second may as well be eighth.
Yes. There's any other scenario where there's a way to do it. Not here. Not at this position. There's one Myles Garrett, and
right.
He won't be here. Now, the question becomes, for how long? What does that look like? And there's some ambiguity there, correct?
Right. There is
it could be
a lack of clarity, and I did some digging on this for our Browns Daily listeners, talking with members of the organization today. And what I can tell you is there is a lack of clarity. 10 days symptom-free. The league needs to clear him, and of course, he needs to be able to pass his test. And so the question is, when did he first have symptoms? We know that he did not practice Wednesday. So if you say Wednesday was the day that he first had symptoms, then you would be able to be back by Saturday. But the symptoms have to subside before they start the clock. So perhaps it was on Monday. By Wednesday, we didn't know what he was feeling. There are no guarantees, because the symptoms need to subside if there are still symptoms, the fevers,
right.
et cetera. You need to be able to pass the test. So Browns fans, don't focus on the Jags game yet. We don't know.
Yeah.
We're all hopeful, but we don't know. There is no real clarity, nothing definitive on that front. And as the Browns, I know Kevin Stefanski has this team focused solely on the Eagles and the task at hand. They're on the practice field right now. And look, if there is one silver lining in this, this is not something that came down on Saturday where you had your entire game plan defensively. You had all of your practice reps defensively featuring Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett, to your point, has not practiced this week. They always had to be thinking in the back of their minds that it was a possibility he would not return to practice. They would hope to get him back today. Did not happen. And what does that mean? Well, it means that Claiborne and Vernon and Gustin have gotten all the reps with the starters this week. So they will have taken the full workload to play a full workload. Not to say I would rather have Myles Garrett on 0 reps, because I would. But under the circumstances, at least these guys have gotten the reps in the install and all of that as though they were the ones who were going to be playing with the starters. Myles Garrett has not received a single first-team rep this week. He hasn't been at practice this week.
Yeah. In terms of the other COVID news, we will find out about Conklin and Parkey tomorrow. Is when we'll find out about their availability for Sunday as well. So that it's not just Myles. You're also talking about your kicker and your starting right tackle in terms of the possibility for them to return. You mentioned the Jacksonville game. That, of course, is a road game, so that puts that even into more. And, again, I'm with you. Don't focus on that. Focus on this. I assure you that's what Kevin Stefanski is doing, and we'll have Coach for you in the 2 o'clock hour fresh off the practice field. From Eagles camp this morning, Jeff McClain, reporter for the Inquirer, reporting that Doug Peterson saying that Zach Ertz probably needs more time before he's cleared to return. So that is interesting news, obviously, for us. There was talk that Ertz would be back this week. Now it looks like that won't be the case for Sunday. So there is a little bit of the silver lining on the injury bug happening the other way as well.
And Ertz and Wentz, though, to be honest, they have not at all been in sync this season. They had a very disappointing start to the year. Ertz averaging 7.4 yards per catch this season for the Eagles. And so what does that mean? Who are the two tight ends that you're going to be dealing with? Because there are going to be a lot of two tight end sets. It's Dallas Goedert, who 18 for 186 and a touchdown in 5 games, and Richard Rodgers. Richard Rodgers has really played well for them lately. In Week 10, last week, he had 4 catches for 60 yards. Week 7, 6 for 85. Former Green Bay Packer, 6'4", out of Cal, third-round pick from 2014. He's played well. So they'll still run their two tight end sets. But, yes, Ertz is obviously one of the preeminent tight ends in the NFL, and it does not seem at this point that he will play, per what you said from head coach Doug Peterson. He hadn't been great, but I'll tell you, he was playing for a contract, and I feel like at the end of this season, he's going to come on and you're going to get the very best that Zach Ertz has to offer. I'm glad it's not happening against the Browns.
Yeah, absolutely so. A lot to get to on the program today. As I mentioned, you'll have Kevin Stefanski live at the podium when that happens. It should be sometime right around 2 o'clock. We will be joined by Ben Hartsock as well. Running back coach Stump Mitchell will join the program, so a lot of fun to be had there. And we'll have a little frivolity as well. We've got the scores, we've got over-unders, and all of those things for you as well. There will be some joy on the program today, even though this is a tough way to start it with Myles Garrett down this week. Coming up next, Ben Hartsock joins us. Before we get to that, though, in 1946, the Cleveland Browns were born. For generations, we've witnessed great hits, great runs, and have enjoyed game day with legends. Renew your 2021 membership to be part of our 75th anniversary celebration. Visit memberships.clevelandbrowns.com or call your rep today. Ben Hartsock will be on the call for ESPN Radio joining us next. Off and running here, Cleveland Browns Daily, 850 ESPN Cleveland. Rumpke Waste and Recycling, family-owned and operated since 1932. They've been in business for 87 years, keeping neighborhoods clean and green. The customers, employees, and communities are all part of the family. Visit rumpke.com to learn more. And with that, we head out on the Fifth Third Money Line and visit with our good buddy Ben Hartsock, ESPN Radio on NFL and college football analyst as well, and of course, a former Buckeye and 10-year NFL vet. Long resume for Ben, and it's all very, very well-deserved. One of the best in the business. You're on the call again. Second time we've had you, Ben, on a game. As you look at this game and you get the news that Myles Garrett is not going to be involved for the Cleveland Browns, what are the first things that come to your mind?
Well, the fact that already this defensive line, defensive front for the Browns have depended on Garrett more than his fair share. I mean, listen, Garrett's a Defensive Player of the Year, front runner, and so obviously you have high expectations. But if you contrast that with what the Eagles have had on their defensive line, there's been some shared production, right? I mean, as good as Brandon Graham has been, and Hargrave, Fletcher Cox, I mean, that more shared responsibility. But outside of Myles Garrett, who tied for the league with the NFL sacks, him not being there, I'm worried about some of the other production. I'm excited or hopeful that Ogunjobi, who's still been in and out with injury, and but he's a productive player, and Olivier Vernon it's been a little bit disappointing his production this year. So this loss is obviously big with what we know of Myles Garrett, but I think when you couple that together with the lack of production, specifically in the pass rush and the pressure department, it's even more impactful.
And it's just becoming the new reality, isn't it, here in the 2020 season? Myles Garrett, probably the biggest name to miss a game due to COVID. Cam Newton, I'm sure the Patriots would say when he had to miss a game, that was a big one at the time. But Myles Garrett's having an MVP caliber season, and it probably won't be the last time a player there aren't many at his level, but it probably won't be the last time a player at or near Myles' level misses a game here during this pandemic.
Well, I mean, listen, guys, I call Georgia home now. I grew up in Ohio, but my Facebook feed is full of friends from Ohio. I think the only way we can it seems like the blame has to be on the governor. I see pictures of cutouts of Governor DeWine with all the stuff that's going on there in the state of Ohio and the uprising of Ohio State fans and parents not being able to go to their game. I'm sure that Ohio people will probably place Myles Garrett going on the COVID. It's got to be on DeWine, right?
I don't know. But I'll leave that to you. Those are Ben Hartsock's words, not Beau Bishop.
Do we not talk that here?
You can go right ahead and say that all you want. I'll just leave that one for you. While you live in Georgia, I continue to reside in the great state of Ohio.
That's right.
Back to the game. What are you seeing with Wentz in terms of his production this year?
Well, 12 touchdowns and 12 interceptions. That in one stat tells the entirety of that story, and that's just the interceptions, has fumbles as well. The reality is that everybody's taking their turns making mistakes. You can even Doug Peterson has been criticized for some of the play calling. You can point to the fact that there have been a shuffling of their offensive line. So there's so many issues that Philly has dealt with. But the reality is Carson is still holding the ball. He's just unsettled. It's from what we have seen him when he's comfortable, when things are clicking, when that offense is humming, he's decisive. He gets to the top of his set, he makes his read, and he fires the ball. Or right now, they're even having struggle with the center quarterback exchange. It seems like those are just so rudimentary problems that they're having with the Eagles. So Wentz is a little bit. Maybe he's got the yips. I don't know how to characterize it, but he's just not making decisive decisions. There are times where he's quick to get out of the pocket when he shouldn't, and then there are other times where he stays in the pocket and he needs to escape. And there are so many different small little comfort factors that come into play that make a quarterback hum. And right now you can point to a lot of things. The fact that he's throwing to guys that were undrafted, and Travis Fulgham and Greg Ward and John Hightower. You can point to the offensive line struggles, but also you can just say that he's a quarterback that isn't throwing the ball with a lot of accuracy right now, and there's just a lot of there's a real lack of continuity right now with that Eagles offense.
There is talk with Ben Hartsock, and Ben, you know that tight end position very, very well, and the Browns have, I think, one of the best all-around tight ends in the NFL in Austin Hooper, two-time Pro Bowler, but did that really as a receiver in Atlanta. Here he's been used more as a blocker, but Beau and I, when we watch him, every time the ball's thrown to him, he catches it, makes big catches on third downs. Do you think it's critical for the Browns to, with the loss of Odell Beckham Jr., expand his role in the passing game here over these final 7?
Well, it's so funny that you guys bring up Hooper because as I studied tape this week, he really jumps off of the film. All of the tight ends, actually. I mean, Harrison Bryant and Njoku. The key that I saw with Chubb coming back and his success, but couple that with Kareem Hunt, the fact that the success that you see on the edge can be attributed in many ways to the tight end play, capturing the edge. And then, allowing a guy like Austin Hooper to go one-on-one against J.J. Watt, it wasn't pretty. He's not displacing J.J. Watt down the field. But if you can assign a tight end to a player of that caliber, it allows the rest of your offensive line to completely change their blocking scheme and find and dominate in the rest of the areas. So when they're running between that B and C gap, or when they try to capture the edge, when you can use your tight ends to take out guys that usually you have to account for with offensive linemen is a really big advantage. And right now, Austin Hooper is doing a really, really nice job of that.
Ben, coming off the bye week, we were all very curious to see what Kevin Stefanski would do to address the loss of Odell Beckham Jr. What would he have thrown in? What would he have adjusted to that he saw in the first half as they were doing, kind of their self-evaluation in the passing game? But the weather was so bad that there was really no way to even to really enter into any of it. So we're lucky in the fact that when that is the case, we've got 2 of, I think, the 7 best backs in all of football and a really good offensive line, and so you can win that way. The weather not going to be great this Sunday either. That recipe is one that probably will be repeated Sunday, don't you think?
Yeah, and obviously you want to be able to execute in those terrible conditions, but the reality is if the Browns want to play playoff football, they have to be able to play in good conditions as well. We can't, unless you've got some sort of wizard under the stadium, I don't think you can plan for rain and wind each and every week. I think Baker's taken some criticism. I know that Dan Orlovsky was critical of him this week, that he thinks they're hiding him within that system. But I look at it more from the perspective of Baker. He's like, you guys are maybe of the same age. Did you guys ever play Excite Bike? You remember that motorcycle game where you had the turbo button, but if you held down on that turbo button for too long, you'd overheat your engine and you had to wait. And that's kind of what I see as Baker is obviously with Chubb and Kareem Hunt and what Stefanski wants to do, that's the bread and butter. That is what you need to do. But you can use Baker Mayfield kind of as that turbo button, but you can't use him for too long. If you push him or ask him to do too much, you can overheat this Browns offense, and that's where you see the feast and famine that has happened with Baker Mayfield through this season, and even bigger to the extent of the course of his career. I think that he's the way that this is shaping up with the offense of the Cleveland Browns. I think it's a good marriage. It's a good if you can keep that run game clicking and the return of Wyatt Teller and all of the offensive line that has played so well. Jed Wills is playing such a good job, and you've got, Pro Football Focus has got 2 or 3 of your guys ranked at the top 2 or 3 at their position on that offensive line, and then you sprinkle in Baker and let him do some of the excitement that he has shown us in flashes through the season. I think that's a really, really good recipe.
Ben, when you look at this defense, try to get on the other side. We have not had on the other side offensively. We didn't get to see our pass game, but we haven't seen the pass defense as well. When you've watched us on tape, third downs has been a big problem for this football team all year. What have you seen, and what adjustments do you think we might see when we actually get to see the ball in the air at First Energy Stadium?
Well, I remember hearing Urban Meyer on a college analysis. He said 85% of pass coverage happens with pass rush. And I think that's the hand-in-glove nature, the complementary nature of defensive football. And the loss of Myles Garrett can't be overstated in this game, that both the Eagles and the Browns blitz a similar around mid-pack in the NFL on their blitz percentage. but the Browns' pressure rate, which is quarterback hurries, quarterback knockdowns, and sacks, is in the bottom 5 within the NFL. So they're not getting that much pressure, and so that just puts a ton of stress on your back end. So how do you fix that? Well, unless you're going to make giant philosophical changes to your blitz package and change things there, you've got to just find ways to get production from your front 4, maybe get some more diverse with some of your stunt packages. I do think the insertion of Ronnie Harrison at that strong safety position, he was a breath of fresh air as he's getting some of his early reps in this season. But ultimately, it's really the front 4. Some of that pressure, I think, is key to helping this struggling pass defense.
It is key, and when you look at it, you mentioned Harrison. We think he's been a star. I think, frankly, he's become our 3rd best defender, along with Miles and Denzel, and then I think Sheldon Richardson, obviously, in that discussion as well. But on the back end, what have you seen? What needs to be cleaned up? You mentioned the pressure up front; it works hand in hand. But what have you seen from the back end and even the safety position? Andrew Sendejo's had some ups and downs this year, but what have you seen when you watch that group on the back end?
Well, there's some continuity. The fact that Joseph was in and then he was out, and Sendejo has been kind of up and down. It's not necessarily. I don't look at it and say that it's necessarily a schematic issue. There are just some execution errors, and
sure.
It's funny to hear the same conversation on a grander scale from Doug Peterson over with Philadelphia. The frustration that comes from different players taking turns, making mistakes that makes us all look bad. Philly had 11 penalties last week that just completely shot themselves in the foot. And I think the same way with the Browns secondary. Ward has been consistent, just locked down, doing his job. But when you have the rest of that, defenses are going to shy away from that matchup, so that opens up some vulnerabilities. And so it can be so much as a missed tackle here, a bad angle there, a misplacement on your spacing, front to back and between safeties whenever they're in that two safety look. Those are things that it's not a schematic issue. It's just an execution issue. And I think that's the biggest thing that needs to be addressed.
Ben, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate you, bud.
Looking forward to it, guys. Thanks.
All right, that's Ben Hartsock on ESPN Radio and college football as well, of course, former Buckeye. Reminder, all guests who appear on Cleveland Browns Daily do so via the Fifth Third Money Line. Fifth Third Bank making Cleveland Browns Daily a Fifth Third better. Nathan's going to go one-on-one with Stump Mitchell coming up next. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Beau Bishop here for my great friends at Raising Cane's. And on game day, you go for the win with Raising Cane's chicken fingers. Stack your roster with delicious hand-battered, cooked-to-order chicken fingers and cane sauce. Huddle up with the crispy crinkle-cut fries, coleslaw, and buttery Texas toast, and top it all off with freshly made tea and lemonade. Love that sweet tea. Raising Cane's chicken fingers, proud sponsor of Ohio State Athletics and the Ohio High School Association. Raising Cane's, one love. New location, Middleburg Heights, opening soon. You have that to look forward to, which is very, very nice. You have this to look forward to, which is nice as well. Nathan going one-on-one with our running back coach, Stump Mitchell.
Very happy to be joined now by the Browns running
both times.
The venerable Stump Mitchell. And Stump, you got your guys back. Nick Chubb returned into action. Another 200-yard rushing game from your room. What does it mean when you can finally get all these guys together?
Well, it's great, and it's also great that we had Wyatt Tiller back. It's great for this room. It's great for the team. It's great for the fans.
Yeah, you mentioned, look, on offense, especially in the ground game, it takes all 11. And Wyatt came back. Austin Hooper, who's played a big role in that run game as well as a tight end. Was it nice to kind of see that group back together? Because, you look at this season, that offensive line has only played 3 complete games together, the initial opening day starting line. And so you can get some rhythm, and it probably makes it easier for your guys as well when you have everybody up front working together and playing at a high level.
It does, and those guys that stepped in, they did a fantastic job. The things we have to eliminate is turnovers. I think those are the things that hurt us mostly in the 3 games that we've lost. So it's great to have everybody back. You're always functioning better when you got a team, and then the backups can be backups.
All right, Coach, this is the question that everybody wants me to ask you, so I'm going to. Would you have stepped out at the 1-yard line, or would Stump Mitchell have cruised right into the end zone?
I think I would have cruised in the end zone.
What was your reaction when you kind of saw that unfolding live?
I wasn't surprised because that's Nick Chubb. And he's seen a couple games. We've seen the Atlanta game where Gurley didn't want to go into the end zone, but he did. Now, it's a totally different game. They would have to score and then get an onside kick and do all of that stuff in the limited amount of time. But that's just Nick.
Yeah, it would have been a 1 in a billion, but he made it a 0% chance. Not a 1 in a billion, not a 1 in a trillion by stepping out at the 1-yard line. What's kind of the reaction to him in the room and really on the team? Because here's a guy who is one of the best players in the NFL, period, regardless of position, and yet so quiet, so focused on his job, so unselfish. I mean, he's welcomed Kareem Hunt in with open arms. Have you ever seen a guy like that, and how did the guys respond to him?
Well, just like he said in his interview, it's nothing new to him. When he was at Georgia, he did the same thing with Shoney Michelle, splitting time. So he's a team guy. And that's what Coach Stefanski has preached about. Everybody's doing their job so we can obtain team success but have goals so you can have individual success as well.
The Browns right now are the only team in the NFL with 2 running backs averaging over 70 yards rushing per game. And how do you kind of decide, and are you the one who does decide who goes in when and how all that works out?
I think Coach Stefanski allows us, for the most part, as coaches, to play our players how we see fit. Coming into this season, we knew that we were going to be running the ball over 30-some times because coming from Minnesota, I think they were either 3 or 4 in terms of rushing attempts per game. So that wasn't a surprise to us. And we set goals. Of course, I set goals for those guys, and I definitely allow them to know what the goals were going into this season. For us as a team was to lead the league in rushing. For them individually, but in a team concept, was for both of them to better their performances, which during a year, Kareem had over 1,300 yards his rookie year. We wanted to top that. And, of course, Nick had almost 1,500 yards. We wanted to top that. And the reason being was because of Coach Callahan and Coach Peters, the way they do things with that offensive line, and also the scheme. So I thought we would have the opportunity to do that, and those guys knew that. So they work hard to try to make things happen.
Is this a running back coach's dream? Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, Dearness, you got all those guys. You got your horses, but you got an offensive line coach. You mentioned it, Bill Callahan and Coach Peters, the players up front, and then a play caller who is 100% unequivocally committed to running the football, and that's the backbone of this offense.
Absolutely, no question. Everyone would like to be built like that in a certain way to be able to run the ball when you have to or just when you want to.
What's the biggest difference between Kareem and Nick Chubb?
Character, first and foremost. Kareem is outspoken and Nick is very quiet. But both of them work extremely hard. Both of them are talented, and they can get the job done.
There's no question they can. What's the biggest difference kind of in their play style as you see it?
I think Kareem is a better route runner, but Nick is constantly trying to improve upon that, and we've seen that. Kareem has the better hands at this point in time, but Nick is always trying to improve that. So I think Nick has done a fantastic job of catching the ball. He continued to work on that, and he continued to work on route running. Kareem just think he's the best player ever.
Well, listen, when you come in the league and you lead the league in rushing right out of the gate, you probably, you get that opinion. And listen, those two guys, when the ball is in their hands, they make things happen. I don't know that I've ever seen, forget just from a talent standpoint, because they're both immensely talented, but the physical nature with which both of them run, especially, Kareem, it's every time it's just a violent collision, carrying people down the field. That's got to be fun to know that your guys, that they want it that bad.
It is. Kareem believes if we need a quarterback, he's the guy. If we need a receiver, he's the guy. If we need a linebacker or DB, he's the guy. That's just Kareem's mentality. So if we need anything on the offensive side of the ball in the way of spurting us, Kareem is willing to be that guy. He believes he can be that guy. Nick just goes out and he wants to play running back. He'll like for you to hand the ball off to him, but he will catch it. And that's just the demeanor of those two guys.
So you said Coach Stefanski gives you the kind of the leeway to play them as you see fit. I would imagine that opens you up to a lot of lobbying, like, hey, Coach, can I get in there? Especially if Kareem he can do anything on any play for you.
Well, the main thing about it is that Coach Stefanski wants these guys fresh. So he knows a total of what he wants these guys to have per week. And I try to manage that.
And you do an excellent job of it. I'm sure it is a difficult situation at times. I can imagine, those guys like Chad Ochocinco back in the day saying, I'm open, get me the ball, get me in there, Coach, come on.
Well, Nick knows that Kareem is the third down back.
Yeah.
That was a given from the start of the season. And now all I have to do is just put him in, to get some first and second down snaps. And he takes it from there. But it's easy to do with Nick because he never says no.
I'm sure he doesn't say anything. So he's certainly not going to say no to you, Coach. All right, one thing I want to ask you about, just from a stylistic standpoint, Nick Chubb does something that I personally have never seen running backs do. And he will make maybe 3, 4, 5 yards down the field a cut where he ends up running parallel to the line of scrimmage. It's almost he makes 90-degree cuts. And the vision he has, he did it on the touchdown run last week. Have you seen a running back do stuff like that? Because that's an unbelievable ability, A, to change direction, B, to maintain your speed. It is hard to outrun people horizontally in the NFL, but he does it, especially in the red zone. It's like he just sees the angles and makes the cuts. I just have never seen anything like that.
The person I had do it was Sean Alexander. I never saw anyone do it like Sean. Sean led the league in rushing touchdowns one year. Of course, LaDainian came back and bettered that the next year. But Sean was the exact same ways. We could be going right, and the next thing you know, he's made a heck of a cut, and the ball is going back to the left, and he's scoring a touchdown. But Nick is just so sudden and decisive in what he wants to do. It's unbelievable. He get guys running, and he can put his foot in the ground and go lateral or go north and south in a heartbeat.
And those guys, they can just make you right. It doesn't matter sometimes what the defense is doing. And I'm sure as a running back and a running backs coach, you invite that 8 and 9 guys in the box because, frankly, your guys are going to at least once or twice or 3 times a game get through that initial wave. And when you put that many guys in the box, once they get through, as we saw in the last play of the game, there's nobody else back there.
Yes, the key for us and for Nick for the most part is just to maintain and know the integrity of the run because those guys up front are working extremely hard to try to, if we're going outside zone, to try to reach their defender. And, once he gets the lineman, the defensive guys running, if our guy makes the block, of course, he's going to stay outside. And if they're running to the point where our guys have to reverse that reach block, he can put his foot in the ground and go back inside.
So just real quickly before we get you out of here, this will be the last one. You look at this Philadelphia team. You look at them as a run defense. They're 26th in the league. But then when you dial in, they've been pretty tough on running backs. It's been really quarterbacks and receivers who have gotten them. They play a lot of that wide 9 under Jim Schwartz. What do you see in this matchup that you like for your guys?
Well, our guys, for the most part, I think the offensive line, of course, and our tight ends still have to do a great job. Those guys come off the ball, no question about it. But
1 minute.
Backs, regardless, you have to press the point before you decide what you're going to do. If we get the block, then we stay with it. If we don't, then we put our foot in the ground. And if there's something there, we take it. If not, we live with a dirty run and allow the play caller, Coach Stefanski, to be able to stay on track.
Well, you always see with this team, sometimes those 2-3 yard runs in the first quarter, second quarter become 5, 6, 7, 9, 20, 40, 50 in the second half. Coach, we really appreciate the time. You're
30.
doing a heck of a job. I'm sure you're having a blast, and we're very lucky to have you here in charge of that talented group and to see you guys continue your success this year.
I am, but those guys outside as well, the wide receivers, they've done a heck of a job. I can recall seeing Odell and Higgins and Jarvis make some blocks to spring those guys for big runs as well.
Stand by.
And the youngster, Donovan Peoples-Jones, out there pancaking people on his way.
Exactly. He did last week.
You love that. Coach, thanks for the time. Best of luck on Sunday and the rest of the season.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
You're up.
All right, great stuff there from Z and from Stump. Cleveland Browns Daily is brought to you by our great friends at Snapple, the official tea and juice drink of the Cleveland Browns. On game day, make sure to head to your nearest discount Drug Mart location before kickoff and load up on your favorite Snapple flavors. We'll play a little over-under fun with Z and Gibbe coming up next. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily, 850 ESPN Cleveland. only one's limit is important, whether it's a snap count for a football player or a spending limit when you're playing the lottery. So if you like to gamble, set a limit beforehand and stick to it. If you want to learn more, go to keepitfunohio.com for helpful tips on how to keep gambling fun. All right, gentlemen, time for a little over-under. Gibby with the week win. His first week win of the year.
Wow.
Gibby thriving. Just an incredible display out of Gibby as he wins over-under in week 10. His slow ascent continues. That's the good news for Gibby. The bad news is he went 2-4.
That's a win, baby.
Jeez.
1-5.
1-5.
Z.
Wow.
It was crazy, incredible, boy.
What are the season numbers right now?
So for the season, interesting you bring that up. For the season, 33-19 for the Z,
Someone's
which
coming
stands
back to the
for
land of
Zegura.
500.
33.
It's in the distance.
14
It's coming.
games over
It's in
500,
the distance,
Gibby. Relax.
kids.
Calm
It's in
yourself.
the distance.
Gibby, who a week ago was just 4 games removed from 500, despite his week 10 win, is now 6 games removed from 500 at
Public
20
school
and
education.
26.
I like it, Bo.
State school. All right, guys. We always start with our 2 backs, Hunt and Chubb. And since Gibby won the week with his tremendous performance, Kareem Hunt, Nick Chubb, rushing yards total, 160.5. Give it.
Over. It's gonna be 44 degrees, 100% chance of rain. Zegura's favorite weather conditions to hang out in.
Loves it.
Gonna run. I'm gonna say over on this one.
Well, as we know, that would be the season high for a group of running backs against the Philadelphia Eagles. The previous high, 141, courtesy of the Los Angeles Rams back in an early season victory. I'm going to say under. We would have been right last week with our under if it weren't for that long scamper on the last drive. The Browns, in fact, adding 96 yards of rushing to their tally. Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb on that final drive. So I'm going to take the under. I think if you put up 150 in this game, that's a real good number against this football team. I believe we're going to get, I don't know how much Baker's going to get involved running, even though they're susceptible to that. I do think we'll see the ball in the hands of our wide receivers a little bit this week to take advantage of something that has really troubled the Eagles' run defense this year.
Next.
Over or under?
Zegura. Baker Mayfield. 174.5 passing yards.
If he could put up 130 in those conditions, I'm taking over. I think he could go north of 170 here against the Eagles. Is it an ideal situation? No, it is not an ideal situation. However, I do think he is going to be able to get it done against them. The Eagles' pass defense, just for people, point of reference, giving up 237 yards passing per game. Should be noted, though, 3 of the last 4 under 200 yards, but all over 180.
Yeah,
Oh.
I'm taking the over. I'm going to regret possibly that first one, but I'm come on. In Chubb,
why are
in
you
Chubb I
doubting yourself?
trust.
You're on a win streak.
In Chubb, I trust. In Hunt, I trust. Baker, over.
Yeah.
Let's get the ball going in the air and let's score some points, damn it.
Next.
Over or under?
Carson Wentz. Touchdowns thrown. Over or under. Turnovers accounted for.
What?
I like that. You mean versus? Yeah.
Right, but we got to do over under. So over or under, will he throw more touchdowns or will he have more turnovers responsible for?
Can I
You
call it?
understand it, Gibby?
Yeah. Is this me?
Yeah, it's
Sorry.
you. Yeah,
I
it's
just
you.
realized this is me. TDs, I'm going over.
Okay, so
So-
you have more all right.
More
over the
touchdowns than
Okay.
turnovers. I'd like it to be the
Okay.
other way, but I don't think it'll happen.
All right.
What I would like to know is, may I request a special
You may not phone a friend.
exemption here and be
Yep.
willing to risk 1 loss point for 2 win points by saying it will be a tie?
No.
No, we can't do
They
tie.
allow you to do
Tie
that in
goes-
soccer betting.
No.
You can bet on a tie.
Yeah, that's
Well,
soccer.
we're not doing soccer. We're
Yeah,
not
but
doing
you're
soccer.
creating a situation
Let's
that has both whole numbers. Like it is.
If it's equal, you both can have the win.
Oh, okay. I will
If
take.
it's equal.
I will take the touchdowns.
Over.
There you go. Play by the rules.
Nick.
I liked my rule. I thought it was a good rule.
No.
Next.
Number
Over or under.
Under.
Miles Sanders. Rushing yards. 85.5. Zegura.
Don't like it at all. Over. I mean, he's rushed for he's averaging 8 yards a carry. I do think we sell out to stop him, but I think 80, especially in light of the rain, I think that's a pretty reasonable number for Miles Sanders, and we can do a good job. Now, the Browns have allowed 2 100-yard rushers on the season, Jacobs and Connor. No other running back has eclipsed 60 yards against the Browns so far this year. So, interesting. Nobody's been in this 80 range. It's kind of like our offense. We score 30 or we score 10 or less. I'm still going to say over here. I'm thinking he comes in about 91, but it's not a crushing 91.
Yeah, I was just gonna say this number will be determined on like the Eagles' last possession.
I hope not. I hope not. Don't say that, Gibby. We want them throwing on their last possession. We get up early. We take them out of the ground game.
Crappy runs like we saw from Arizona on their drive last night.
Okay. All right.
Before they ran out of gas. You know, one of those 10
yard
runs.
Okay.
You're like, all right, fine, go to the middle of the field.
This one I would love to be wrong about, by the way.
I'm going to say over as well.
I would love this.
Over as well for you.
I'm calling for the reverse jinx here. If he doesn't go over 80, I think we win this game handily.
Next.
Over or under.
A personal favorite of you all, the sacks, interceptions, and fumbles. 4.1.
Under. No Miles. No problem. But we'll still be good. I think 3 would be a wonderful number. And by the way, putting the reverse jinx in on this one too. Let's go. If we go over that number, I feel very good about our chances.
Under.
Yeah, I would say.
Under.
Under as well. Okay. Next.
Over or under.
The over-under total points scored, 47.5.
Over. In the rain. Over.
I mean, it's real hard because the elements are clearly such a factor. It's been 3 straight that would be under for the Eagles, regardless of their situation. For the Cleveland football Browns, these last 2 games, how do you even account for them? Both in First Energy Stadium, a grand total in the 2 games of 39 points.
Yeah.
Total.
No wind. No wind.
40, what was the number? 40 what?
47.5.
I'm going to go under.
Under. All right. And that was a little game we like to call over and under. Coach Kevin Stefanski ought to be at the podium coming up here at the top of the hour. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. And let's go right to the podium where our head coach, Kevin Stefanski, is addressing the media.
Now, and I think the guys understand what
guys are down.
So with that, I will take any questions.
Thank you very much, Coach. Our first question will go to Mary Kay Cabot.
Yeah, Coach, in terms of Miles, can you, we're all trying to, wade through the protocols and the policies and try to figure all this stuff out. But my question is, when does sort of the clock start on his symptoms, or when he reported his symptoms? Because I think, we're kind of trying to figure out what his chances are of being back for the Jaguars game.
Hey, Mary Kay, I really can't get into the specifics on that. I will tell you we're in constant communication with Dr. Sills, the NFL. Joe's does a great job of making sure that we're in compliance and all of that. So it remains to be seen, I guess, would be how I would answer that.
So at this point, does he have a chance to be back for that game, or do you...
I wouldn't speculate at this point, Mary Kay, but I think as the days go by here, we'll know a little bit more.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Mary Kay. Jake Trotter is next.
Okay, Kevin. So then, generally speaking, the way we all understand it, I think, is from the moment you report symptoms, you have at least 10 days before you can rejoin the team. Is that, first of all, is that correct, the way you understand it?
I honestly, I'll defer to Joe. I'll kind of check back with him on some of this stuff. I kind of do what he tells me.
Okay, so you're not really.
I'm not well versed on the exact protocols. I know this, we follow them. So as it pertains to Miles, we shall see. Obviously, want anybody who goes on that COVID list to return as soon as possible.
Do you know when you might have more clarification on sort of what the timeline could be for Miles?
Yeah, next week.
Okay.
Thank you, Jake. Scott Petrick, you have our next one.
Hey, Kevin, with Jack and Cody, are they still on track for a return tomorrow?
We're hopeful, yeah.
Okay. And any word on when Chris or Andy might be able to come back?
Nothing of note yet, no.
Okay. And another injury thing. With Mac and Wyatt, is he the same as last week, or was there something happen this week?
Yeah, I think he's sore. But he practiced. So we'll see as the next couple of days go. But, I'm hopeful for Wyatt, but he's definitely sore.
Thanks.
Thank you, Scott. Nate Ulrich, we'll go to you.
Hey, Kevin, I know how you've braced your guys to be ready for anything this season, but, when you find out that your best player is not going to be available, what do you say to the guys? Do you worry about the team's psyche? Where are you at with that, and how everybody's taking the news that Miles is not going to be out there?
Yeah, Nate, this is we talked about this a lot this year. It's 2020. Expect the unexpected. So who's ever available to us, I promise you, we'll be ready to roll on Sunday, and the guys know that.
Thanks, Nate. Zach Jackson, you're up.
Kevin, when you look at the weather report for Sunday, do you breathe a sigh of relief, or do you wait to do that until Sunday morning actually comes?
What's the saying with the weather? Just wait 10 minutes. So we'll see. I'll get out there at pregame, talk to Priest, talk to the specialists, and then we'll see if it is a determining factor in any of our preparations.
Thank you, Zach. Aditi Kinkabwala has our next question.
Obviously, you always say next man up, and you play with who you have. But when you have a player like Myles Garrett, who is a potential defensive player of the year, how much does it schematically change what you are able to do when your defensive end is not necessarily the best player in the NFL?
Yeah, I think that's our job as coaches, Aditi, to put our guys in position to make plays and be successful. Whenever you're without any player of Myles' caliber, and we were without Nick for a bunch of weeks there, it's our job as coaches to make sure we're putting guys in position to succeed, and that's the conversations we have when anybody's down due to injury or otherwise.
Thank you, Aditi. Back to Mary Kay Cabot.
Yes, I don't think we asked you this yet. Who will start in place of Myles on Sunday, if you can tell us that?
We're going to work through that, Mary Kay. It'll be a rotation.
And, we know obviously who some of the candidates are. So how do you feel about the progress of Adrian Claiborne. I know he had a little bit of a hip injury this year that set him back. How's he been looking lately? And then maybe a little bit about Porter Gustin too.
Yeah, feel good about both those guys you mentioned. I think they bring different skill sets, different styles, but they both play really hard. So I think we have a defensive line that really plays well together. Like we've been talking about, we play a lot of guys, period. We play a lot of defensive linemen, a lot of linebackers. We rotate guys into the back end. So in moments when guys have to play, they've at least had some reps.
Thank you.
Nate Ulrich, we'll go to you.
Kevin, how much do you lean on Sheldon Richardson in a situation like this, and could he play some end?
Yeah, definitely possible, Nate. He's done that before. So all of our guys, there's, heard me say this before, versatility is a big deal. So all of our guys that can have dual roles in moments when you're without players, that does matter.
Thanks, Nate. To Scott Petrick.
Kevin, do you have to change the plan defensively to try to create pressure without a guy like Miles? I mean, more blitzes called?
I think we've been talking through that, Scott. I think the answer is sometimes. You really want to make sure that you're putting together a rush plan that makes you difficult to defend. So at times that will be bringing 5 or 6. At times you want to drop extra guys into cover. So it varies, but bottom line is you got to affect the quarterback regardless of the call.
And we talk about Miles as a pass rusher so often, but how much will you miss his ability as a run defender?
Yeah, he's a good player. We know that. We don't want to be without him, but we are, and I promise you the guys will be ready to go.
Thanks. Thank you, Scott. Aditi Kinkhabwala, you're up.
Okay, admittedly, this might be a better question for your wife or your kids, but your players repeatedly say that one of your best assets is that you are even, that every single day you are the same. Is that how you are in all aspects of your life, and is that how you have always been?
Yeah, too bad my kids aren't here. Yeah, I think so. The easiest thing for me is I just try to be me, and if that's what is the perception, I guess that's the reality, but I'm just trying to be myself every day, and that's easy to do.
So that's not an active effort that's what a football team needs, that a football team needs to see me being the same no matter what? That's really, truly who you are? Yeah, I mean, I think talked about this before, but there's to me, it's about authenticity, and I think we have a bunch of guys in this building that the players respond to because they're real, and I think I can go up and down our roster and have a bunch of guys that love football, want to be great teammates, and I think that's really important to me. Okay, one last thing, and thank you, Rob. Jarvis said that he's had like 7 or 8 head coaches, and there's not necessarily been one that he can text on Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. Is that just your relationship with Jarvis, or is that anybody that messages me, I'll message back? Yeah, it's interesting, Aditi. It's so important for me in my role to be able to touch different players and be around different guys and understand them, and that is hard to do in an intensive protocol world. There's much less moments where you bump into people in the hallway or in the cafeteria, which for all intents and purposes doesn't exist in 2020. So I just try to be mindful of that and make sure that the guys know that I got their back.
Thank you, Coach. We don't have any other hands up, so that'll do it for today. Appreciate the time.
Okay, thanks.
You're up.
All right, there was your head coach, Kevin Stefanski, meeting with the media. Interesting. The quote that I think sums it all up, Z, is this one. It's 2020, expect the unexpected. Whoever's available will be ready to roll. That's it. That's how he's approached this whole thing. He is unflappable. His tone doesn't change. Wins, losses, adversity, non-adversity. We have dealt with as much adversity as anybody, maybe even certainly as much now as even the 49ers. Now, we don't have the players lost time as them, but in terms of who we've lost, it's been as big as anybody in the league, and there's never really a tone change with Coach. It's the same.
He is smooth operator, rock steady. Just as we say, he's like an impenetrable fortress. You cannot phase him. You cannot fluster him. You cannot get to him. And I think that demeanor, though, has carried over to his football team, which
Yeah.
is a wonderful thing for the Browns. And I think it's allowed them to be successful in spite of the adversity that they face. And this is just another chapter in it, to be honest. And it's unfortunate, but that really is the truth. It's just another chapter in, what has been an interesting season, and yet here we sit at 6-3, and a big part of that, and a lot of the credit, I believe, goes to Kevin Stefanski. I get asked a lot about Kevin Stefanski and what I think he has meant to this team, and I think he has been the most important thing here. Just his demeanor, the 3 Ps, as we always talk about, the preparation, the plan, and the process to implement the plan. And I think his commitment, and I know TTP is so cliche at this point, trust the process, but it's his commitment to his process that enables him to remain free of the distractions and the emotional ups and downs that would probably come from someone who did not have a locked-in process and routine. He's like a Clydesdale. He's in there. These are the steps I go through on Wednesday to prepare this football team. These are the steps I go through on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, etc. And I think his commitment to that process and thus the team's commitment to the process has been critical to their success and ability to overcome hurdles. And, yeah, we got another hurdle. This one's tall, but we got a high jump champion in David Njoku here. So we're going to be fine.
I don't know that I've ever been around a more disciplined leader of a football team.
That's what I mean.
He is
totally.
Yeah, that's the word. He is so
Great word by you.
Disciplined emotionally. There is no – every other guy I've been around and been lucky enough to be around some of the very best who have ever done it at any level, and they're still there's emotional swings.
Of course.
They get frustrated, and even in private moments off camera, they would get they would vent. I've never seen Kevin Stefanski vent, and that goes for in front of the media or in private moments. And obviously we don't have the private moments like we would if we were in the building in a normal non-2020, but we have had some, and there's nothing. There's just, it's straight, it's flatlined. It's so disciplined in his approach.
And there are 2 things. One, everything that you just said about Kevin Stefanski could also be said about Andrew Berry. Yes. And it seems Paul DePodesta. And those are the 3 people that are working together at the top of your organization. They all have that characteristic. Very steady, never too high, never too low. And I can tell you from private conversations, because I actually have had many with Andrew Berry, that's exactly how he is. Never too up after a win, never too down after a loss, never, counting his chickens before they're hatched, just focus on the process of getting this organization better. And that leadership group, that trickles down. It has a massive impact on the team. But the other part of it, people can only be like that who are truly confident in A, themselves, and B, their process that they have chosen. That is an unwavering confidence and commitment in themselves and in their process. And he has that. And it's no surprise, I don't think, that these are guys, and I don't think it's exclusive, first of all, to people who went to Ivy League schools, but I do think that there is a confidence that is instilled in a young person who gets into an esteemed university, who goes on to have success at said esteemed university, both academically and athletically, and who then works their way through. And now you have the youngest general manager in NFL history here. You have someone who is considered a baseball mastermind, now starting to look like someone who will, in a few years' time, perhaps be considered a football mastermind because they stuck to themselves, were true to themselves, and believed in themselves. And you have Kevin Stefanski, who could have gone the NBA route, obviously had a natural lead in there, didn't want to. Football was his love, comes in at the bottom of an organization and works his way up in that organization. The organization wants to keep him there for 14 years, and now he goes from 1 year as an offensive coordinator to a head coach in the NFL, having success. And I believe it's because, as he said, I'm just me. I'm just me. When you're always yourself, you never have to think about who you need to be.
No. Nope. It's a basic little lesson in life for all the kids out there. All right, we get you your fantasy advice, your keys to victory coming up next. Scores at the bottom of the hour. Cleveland Browns Daily, 850 ESPN Cleveland. Beau Bishop here for my great friends at Weather Seal Home Services. They're the best in the business, guys, for any home improvement need. Right now, $1 down, 7 years, 0% financing. You get the new roof your home needs. The weather, certainly in Northeast Ohio, it's going to turn bad. You know it's coming. It happens every single Sunday down at the stadium. Don't be stuck in the cold with a bad roof. Weather Seal can make your new roof a reality in 1 week. Call 877-351-SEAL or visit weathersealhomeservices.com. The sale ends at the end of the month. It's with approved credit, and prior sales are excluded. Are you a sports fan looking for a part-time weekend job? Well, get into the action. First Energy Stadium, home of your Cleveland Browns. Wes is now hiring for part-time event staff and security. Apply online at weshiring.com. And with that, it's time to bring in the good doctor and a little fantasy advice brought to you by Tito's Handmade Vodka. Z, who do you like?
All right, let's get into it here. Week 11, you're making your playoff pushes in fantasy football, and we will start, as we always do, at the quarterback position. And at the quarterback position this week, Cam Newton against the Houston Texans. They can't stop anybody from running it. Newton has 4 rushing touchdowns in his past 3 games. He's got at least 8 fantasy points as a runner alone during the last 4 as well. So he's been very effective. Houston has allowed at least 283 yards passing to 4 straight quarterbacks prior to last week's weather-altered game against the Browns. I love Matty Ice against New Orleans. Ridley should be back. With Ridley, Ryan, top 5 potential in what could be a shootout. Now, if there isn't Ridley, I probably would sit Matty Ice this week. Couple sleepers for you.
Ridley is healthy, Z.
What?
Ridley is healthy.
He is healthy and ready to go?
Ridley is healthy.
That's great news because he's on my squad. Get him back in there for the Sooning Snakes. Let's go. Couple sleepers. I think both quarterbacks in that Cincinnati football team game will be good fantasy plays. Joe Burrow and then Alex Smith on the other side, who's coming off of a 390-yard game. Running backs, Mike Davis, roll with him. McCaffrey is out, a favorable matchup for him against Detroit. Roll with him this week. Kalen Ballage has been a revelation, 14.5 PPR points on average over the last 2 weeks. Keep him going. Damian Harris, we know about that Houston run defense from the New England Patriots, and Nyheim Hines has kind of emerged as the main guy for the Colts in a very good matchup with the Packers, who have given up the 3rd most fantasy points to opposing running backs. Giovanni Bernard, by the way, you got to roll with him. Joe Mixon out again. He has been a top 10 fantasy back 2 times in his 3 starts. The only one he wasn't was against the Steelers, which obviously makes a lot of sense. Wide receivers this week, you know I love Deontay Johnson. Speaking of the Steelers, I think Brandon Cooks continues to stay hot against New England because I bet Gilmore is going to be following Will Fuller around, so that means that Cooks, even Randall Cobb over the slot, should be very involved. And then T. Higgins, there's no way to deny what has happened. T. Higgins has become, along with Tyler Boyd, the top 2 options for Joe Burrow in Cincinnati. 13 PPR points in 4 straight games, at least 8 targets in 4 of his past 5 outings. Roll with him. Then if you need a tight end this week, boy, I do like Hayden Hurst. So far, the Saints, they've struggled with tight ends. Hurst has got at least 7 targets 3 games in a row. I think that is a great matchup for Hayden Hurst.
All right, time for your keys to victory, brought to you by University Hospitals, official healthcare partner of your Cleveland Browns. This one got a little more interesting with the news of no Myles Garrett this week, but I still think the roadmap is the same, good doctor.
It is the same. Key 1, force the Eagles into 3rd and 5 or more. So it's about limiting Miles Sanders on early downs. Over the last 4 games, the Eagles are 10 of 42 on all 3rd downs, 23.8%. But when you drill down even further, they struggle in 3rd and long. Over the last 4, the Eagles just 4 for 29. That's 13% on 3rd downs of 5 yards or more. Get them into 3rd and longs, and then you can get after Carson Wentz. They've allowed a league-high 35 sacks. Wentz a league-high 12 interceptions. When he is under pressure, Wentz completing just 40% of his passes, 4.7 yards per attempt, 4 interceptions, and a quarterback rating of just 51. Point 2, this is a week to play tight coverage. Do not let Carson Wentz get the ball out of his hands quickly. You're going to need more time, A, to get to the passer without Myles Garrett, but B, when Wentz gets it out quickly, 2.5 seconds, completing 70.5% of his passes, 5 touchdowns, quarterback rating of 87. When defenses have taken away those quick options and forced him to hold the ball, he's been dreadful. On plays in which he's had to hold the ball for more than 4 seconds this year, Wentz, 31% completions, 3.7 yards per attempt, 4 interceptions, 1 touchdown, and a quarterback rating of 11. I think Bootsy the Bold could have a quarterback rating of 11.
Oh, he can sling it.
He can sling, there's no doubt. By the way, when you do that, that means he has to throw it down the field a little bit more. On passes of at least 10 yards in the air, Wentz, out of 33 qualified quarterbacks, 29th in completion percentage, 9 interceptions, most in the NFL, quarterback rating of 63, 27th. By the way, the Eagles are 13-2 when they have 0 turnovers. So putting Wentz in situations where he turns it over, critical for the Browns. And then finally, get out to a big lead, follow our script. In their last 4 losses, the Eagles trailed at half in every game. They trailed by double digits at some point in the first 3 quarters. The Browns, undefeated this year when leading after the first quarter. Undefeated this year when leading at halftime, 5-0. Undefeated this year when leading after 3 quarters. In 5 of the team's 6 wins this season, the Browns were up at the half and handled their business to earn the win. So get that early lead. That takes Miles Sanders out of it a little bit more, puts it in the hands of Carson Wentz, and allows us to really feed Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt in the 5 games those two have played together. The Browns averaging 210 yards rushing per game. Total offense up 74 yards per game, scoring a touchdown more per game, and they've rushed for 9 touchdowns. That's the script. There it is.
Well done out of you. That's a fantastic job out of you, in fact, and those are your keys to victory. Brought to you by University Hospitals, the official healthcare partner of your Cleveland Browns. If your game plan for this season includes buying or selling a home, Howard Hanna Real Estate Services has you covered. Visit howardhanna.com/GoBrowns today. As for the rest of the league and a little thing we like to call the scores.
Pay attention to the scores.
They're coming up next. Cleveland Browns Daily, 850 ESPN Cleveland. If your Social Security benefits have been denied, call the disability lawyers at 1-800-ELK-OHIO. Elk and Elk, a proud partner of your Cleveland Browns. And with that, time for a little segment we like to call The Scores. Gibby is here. Z, what a week last week for you, buddy.
It was a good week. I was pleased with that. Had a nice little 9-5 tally on the week. And by the way, just like we told you, we'd bounce back on Thursday night. That's exactly what we both did for you.
Exactly
for
what
the
we
good
did.
folks. As we sit now through 10 weeks, I'm 13 games over 500. Beau, 9 games over 500. But as I like to say, combined 22 games over 500 for the people.
Give them what they want, Gibby.
Give them what they want. Gibby's out here
It's
trying
about
to
time you showed up for a
sully
Thursday
our
night.
we told you we
the
would.
league week starts on Thursday.
We told you.
Not on Sunday.
We told you we would, and it's exactly what we did.
All right. Let's see if you can do just as well this week. Week number 11 in the National Football League. Kicking it up. Atlanta, 3-6. Kind of starting to trend up. Maybe a little bit. Maybe it might be too late, but we'll see. Traveling to New Orleans, Taysom Hill, your quarterback for the Saints on Sunday. Falcons, Saints, Zegura, go.
Wow, there's a lot
Don't
of
hurt
problems.
yourself.
There are a lot of problems in the Bayou. Now, Alvin Kamara, not amongst them. The Saints' defense is playing better. Michael Thomas, I don't know. I don't have the contacts at the Ohio State University that Beau does, but I don't know what's going on with Michael Thomas. I do know, I feel pretty confident that Taysom Hill is not the solution to what ails him. And yet, that is the direction that they are going. This is going to be a big Alvin Kamara game, but the Falcons, they're coming off their bye week. Calvin Ridley is back. I think the Falcons go down there, and I think they shock the Saints 31-23.
These two teams hate each other. They absolutely hate each other. And you watched the Saints at the end of the game last week and how lost they were without Breeze. They had a week to get it right, but the fact that they're going with Hill tells me they didn't. I don't know if Atlanta could win, but I'm like, of course they don't need to. Give me the Falcons, however, to take care of business. Like you, 31-30. Go Birds.
Up next, we go to Washington. Washington hosting the Cincinnati Bengals. Luckily for Washington, the game is at home. Bengals still without a win on the road in 2020. Burrow and company visiting Washington at 1 o'clock. Bishop.
This is your Buckeye Bowl. This is your Burrow, Chase Young, McLaurin. Dwayne will be watching on the sidelines. Look, Cincinnati plays great when they don't have to play the Ravens and the Steelers. They either cover or they take care of business. This is one they've had circled for a long time. I think Cincinnati plays well. They go to the football team and they win. Burrow with a big game, 37-34.
I love this one. It's a shame Dwayne's not out there to make it easier. Alex Smith, frisky. And who would have thought the football team, they're playing well for Riverboat Ron, that they'd be favored in this one. McLaurin is dangerous. I think it's a high-scoring affair, and I think the football team comes out. Washington football team, 70. Bengals,
wow,
68.
Oh, wow.
All right, we move on. This is an interesting one here on Sunday afternoon at 1 o'clock. Patriots, 4-5 on the year, fighting for their playoff lives, traveling to Houston. It's a reunion. Belichick versus Romeo. Texans, Patriots. Zegura.
I think what happened here on the shores of Lake Erie, that was a season ender for the Texans. They are going to fold up shop and go home. The Patriots still fighting to stay alive. They're in a tough spot, no doubt about it. But they're fighting to stay alive, and I think they figured something out here with Damian Harris. Cam and Harris, a great 1-2 punch on the ground. Jacoby Myers, represented by agent to the star Andy Sims, becoming a star for the Patriots. Too much for a Houston Texans team that I don't think.
Money Brothers t-shirt. No sweatshirt for Beau.
Beau needs that sweatshirt. Listen,
Still
COVID's prevented it. We're looking for it. Simsy, come on.
No sweatshirt.
Patriots, big. And hopefully it cements a sweatshirt for Beau Bishop and maybe a nice visor for Gibby. Wouldn't Gibby look tremendous in a visor?
Oh, he looked fantastic.
He sure
yes.
would.
Burned my head.
He sure would. Patriots 17, Texans 3.
Look, New England's kind of figured out who they are. They went for a while not knowing exactly what they were trying to do, having Cam do some weird things. But they've got it sorted out now, and they got it sorted out behind Damian Harris. He's the real deal, and he has changed their ability to run the football tremendously. They're running it with Cam, they're running it with him, and they run all over Houston. We saw it last week, to your point. Pats 21, Houston 10. That's crazy, though, that Deshaun would be held to 10.
I think we're just saying that to be annoying. But, look, they're going to have Gilmore neutralize Fuller. I told you I like Cooks. They probably won't be held down, but I do think it stands, though, that the Patriots win this game, and I don't think it's necessarily
Score
close.
remains.
Right.
I agree. Score remains.
All right, guys, up next, a potential trap game as the Jacksonville Jaguars. Careful, Jags. Don't be looking ahead to Cleveland, because knocking at the door this weekend, a visit from the undefeated Pittsburgh Steelers. Steelers don't get caught looking ahead. Thursday night, they're playing host to the Baltimore Ravens. Steelers, Jaguars. Bishop.
So what happened the last time the Steelers were a big favorite against a woe-begone franchise like this? In Dallas. The Cowboys moved it up and down the field. And what did we hear this week from Mike Tomlin over in Pittsburgh? Everybody's an NFL team.
This isn't the MAC.
This ain't the MAC. Everybody's pros.
Taking a shot
Steelers.
at the Screw you, Tomlin.
Steelers. Focused. Determined. Luton. Crushed. Hammered by those guys. Steelers big. Be a Steelers home game. I mean, they may have 50,000 people at that game. It's hard to say. Steelers win big in this one. 31-17.
Let me tell you something. I agree. I thought that comment was a very subtle but not so subtle way of Mike Tomlin saying, what happened in Dallas cannot happen again.
Ain't happening again.
Let's go out and let's crush this team like we should. I believe they will. Luton joining Mishnu in a spot where it's deep, deep in the core of the earth. Very, very hot. Straight there. Steelers, 80. Jags, -17.
Go to hell, Mitchell.
He's not even playing.
Don't pass go.
Up next, a 1 o'clock game that I feel like should have been moved. I mean, they moved Colts-Packers to 4:30 this week, and not this one. Tennessee 6-3, Baltimore 6-3. Trouble in paradise for both franchises and a rematch of last year's playoff debacle for the Ravens. Zegura, the floor is yours.
This is a tough one for me. I'd say both of these teams are struggling, but for different reasons. For the Ravens, it's a lack of productivity on offense. For the Titans, it's an inability to stop people on defense. Adoree Jackson is out for this one. That's the one guy that could run with Hollywood Brown. Could this be a game where Hollywood Brown returns, where he returns to relevancy for this team? I don't know. I feel like even everybody's writing the Ravens off. I think they're due to have a big performance. I think it could come this week. Ravens 34, Titans 30.
Interesting.
So you got to pay
attention. Where you look at this. This is one where you look at this and you say, boy, from a scores perspective, why? Why is a team that is struggling that much expected to win by that much? That doesn't make sense. It's hard to wrap your head around it. And then you say to yourself, boy, since yesterday when I first looked at this score, it's gone down. What does that tell me? It tells me there's a lot of interest on the opponent, which tells me when they built all those hotels out there, they did it because the house always wins. Ravens, 1 billion. Titans, 0.
That would be my spread theory pick, no doubt. But this one, I'm going against it. So I think it's hard for them to beat somebody by that much.
Up next, guys.
1 billion is. It's difficult,
right?
To be fair.
This rounds out
hard to
the
beat a
1
team
o'clock.
Well, Lamar Jackson was on pace to run for 1 billion yards in the preseason at one point. I believe we were told that.
That's true, yeah.
This will round out the 1 o'clock games on Sunday. The Detroit Lions lurking in that playoff background in the NFC. 4-5, can't win at home, but 3-2 on the road. They travel to Carolina. No Theodore, no McCaffrey. Ruh-roh, Raggy. Zegura?
No DeAndre Swift. And by the way, I want to give credit to Adrian Peterson because the quote that he gave us on DLD is finally getting the run that it deserves. And this tells you that at least in the football framework, a class guy. He was asked, why did it take so long when he was told, what they asked him, what he thought about the fact that DeAndre Swift was finally named the starter and was the main man. And obviously we know he blew up. He was unavailable this week due to a concussion. Very sad for the Sooning Snakes. However, do you know what AP told us, folks? He told us, I was wondering why it took so long. We all were.
Yeah.
We all were, but that's a nice, humble thing to say. He's back this week. Stafford looks good to go. Carolina, P.J. Walker, now they're saying Theodore, game time decision, but they are a team that is game, but then it just kind of gets away from them at some point. And as long as Stafford goes, I think the Lions handle it. They end up winning this one 20-14.
I don't like either. I hate trying to pick both these teams. I just absolutely hate it because every time I think I got to make sense of it, it goes the opposite way. With Theodore, I would have gone keep pounding Carolina with Theodore. But this news today is a little bit of a changer for you. And so taking it into consideration that Theodore is not going to play, that Teddy Two Gloves is not going to play, give me the Lions 24-17.
All right, we move to the 4 o'clock games, 4:05. Miami, if you're the real deal, this is a winnable game. 6-3 Miami on the road, trapping that high-altitude air, taking on 3-6 Denver, Beau Bishop.
Denver stinks.
Miami's
got a really good defense.
That's why I'm saying.
They can run it. They can the 2 tight end set. They can hit Gesicki, your boy out of Penn State. They'll take care of some business. They will this week. It's going to happen. Denver's lost. They're wayward, and not sure where they're going to go. Quarterback certainly not going to be Locke. I believe we had that at the beginning of the year. Give me Miami 31, Denver 21.
I've been wrong about this Dolphins team. I wanted to say that they were a pretender. They're not. They're legit. Their defense is legit, and their defense is what has been propelling them. Denver's offense not up to the task. Not good. Drew Lock's banged up. Frankly, I hope Drew Lock plays if I'm a Dolphins fan, or in this case, we're back in the Dolphins side. Dolphins big. 27. Special teams touchdown again. Maybe a defensive touchdown to boot.
Maybe.
Broncos 2.
All right, up next. Boy, some real clunkers in the 4 o'clock window, including this one. I almost got to say it's a must-win for Anthony Lynn and his coaching staff. Like, you can't lose to the Jets. Especially at home.
Team
Chargers hosting the Jets.
I mean, Gibbe, the Jets actively lose. So it's going to be hard for him to blow this. And they won't. They won't. The Chargers will win. But if we learn anything from the Jets last week against the Patriots, they're a little frisky. And they'll play hard the entire way for Greg Williams, especially on that defensive side. Rookie quarterback, G-Dub, scheming it up. Gets a pick. Chargers, 19. Jets, 16.
Same. I want to live forever.
Up next, Dallas, 2-7, 0-4 on the road. They're going to Cole Country. Britton Cole and the surging Minnesota Vikings. Another big win on Monday Night Football. The Vikings 4-5 and very much alive in the NFC North and the NFC playoff picture, Zegura.
Cole, Cook, Jefferson, Vikings 27-23.
Type.
We move on.
Whoa.
Whoa. Are you sure it's the same?
Opposite. Same, but not.
But different.
Vikings, 34. Cowboys, 17. Whew. Luckily, I caught that.
I got that in quick. Slid it right in there very quickly.
You really did.
Dallas coming off the bye. Vikings secondary in shambles. There's just enough time for the Red Rifles back. COVID was tough, but it's not as tough as the Vikings secondary used to be. Not like they currently are. CeeDee Lamb. Maybe Dalvin's going to cook up some lamb for Thanksgiving. CeeDee Lamb touchdown cover. Boom. 27-23.
Are we good now?
Gonna be better.
All right, great. We move on to the marquee game. This is the game that was flexed to 425, America's game. Sure. Packers on the road, 7-2, taking on the number 1 team in the AFC South, the Indianapolis Colts, off of that shellacking of Tennessee last Thursday. A little extra time off. Still not buying the Packers totally, although I do love Aaron Rodgers. Bishop, what say you?
Aaron Rodgers, dome, healthy receivers. Green Bay, 97. Colts, 91.
Danico Autry out for the Colts as well. That's a big loss to the front of their line. I don't understand this one, though, Bo. Who's not doing that?
Oh.
Who's not doing it?
Are you doing the opposite?
No, I'm not. I just feel like it's who's not
How you
doing
feel
it?
about? It's just because of the what happened with them and the Titans last week that's having you to question it.
I'm not questioning anything. I just think I know that they're
No, but
good.
in
They've
general,
had the
I
mini
agree
bye.
with
I
you.
know the Colts. They're good. They've had the mini bye week to get ready, but boy, I don't know. No, Packers big, huge.
It's on the turf, dome. nice
Adams,
and
did you
warm.
see him in practice today? Looking spectacular. Allen Lazard possibly back as well.
Yep. Safe.
Final one, Sunday Night Football. It is going to be a dandy. Not sure there'll be too many victory laps going on for the Raiders this week. They play host and welcome in the team that they have beaten. The only team that has beaten the defending Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs. Chiefs 8-1, Raiders 6-3. We have 1 minute.
Gibbe, didn't you hear the story I told earlier about how wind had made it to the Chiefs about the victory laps and the buses taken by Gruden and company, and now they don't have a defense? Chiefs, 8 billion. Raiders, 1.
Can they play this game? Can they play
They have
this game?
NFL
if the
doesn't care.
Raiders
We're
don't have a
playing.
defense?
We're here to play games, Gibby. We're here to play the games.
Yeah, but who's
That's why we
active
do
on
it.
the Raiders defense?
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. They'll sort it out. We'll get you your predictions for our game coming up next. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Nominations for the new 2020 Helmets program now being accepted. Zenith invites you to nominate your Ohio high school to receive $25,000 worth of new Zenith helmets. Visit promotions.clevelandbrowns.com to learn more. Buckeyes in a top 10 matchup against Indiana this
football
weekend.
School now.
Yeah, Indiana is a bit of a football school now.
And Michigan's a basketball school.
Jeez. Indiana's it's 20.5. I think you're safe. I think Bucks 42-17 on that one.
Wow.
Take care of your business. They got the number one.
That's the ninth-ranked team in the country, and like the fact that that's the spread
Indiana.
is, I know, but it's still just a ridiculous thing, and it shows why they need to make sure Ohio State's in the playoff.
Yeah, I think Ohio State will be immune to a number of games played. I think people will just go, they're really good. If they play 5 or 4 or whatever, and the others play 8, I think they'll be fine. I think Fields will be fine too. He's completing 87% of his passes so far this season. That seems that's hard to do on like a video game. 87%. That's pretty tough. All right. As for our game, Z, what do you got?
I think we're going to get out to the lead. I think it is going to be tense like many of our games, but I think the Browns are ultimately going to get it done. I'm looking at 24-22 Browns.
24. Boy, that's right on your over-under. Just right on it. Good job out of you. 24-22. I'm a little more confident. I'm a little more confident than you, good doctor. Brownies, take care of business.
I'm
21.
quite confident.
17.
I throw away your
21,
insinuation.
30.
17. Let's get a dub. Let's get to 7-3 and head down to Florida with that record. That's what you got to do. Take care of business. The next level is coming up next. We're back Monday and hopefully on a Victory Monday to break it all down with the Hoff. Have a good weekend, everybody. Cleveland Browns Daily, 850 ESPN Cleveland.